everyone. In this video, I'd like to share with you my story on my journey to be diagnosed with episodic ataxia type 2 and go from there. Share my story. My name is Darcy Marie, and I'm going to share with you my story of my journey to diagnosis with episodic ataxia type 2 as well. You can find my story by simply either going to the Google search and typing in Darcy CACNA1A story, and then I should come up on different websites, or you can search at rarediseaseday.org, and my story is there in great detail if you're interested in that. So, I will begin. I was born July 26, 1992. I was born with both of my hips dislocated in breech position, meaning that I was born legs first, and as a result, my hips were dislocated at birth. Then it was noted I had some developmental delays, very, very young. And then I started, it wasn't until I was like, my early childhood was fairly okay. It wasn't until I was like 10 years old before I actually started physically feeling unwell and getting sick. And so that began around that time, which started with dizziness I would have occasionally. Now the thing is, when that had started, I started seeing doctors in regards to these dizzy spells, but they couldn't figure out as to why I was having them. By the time I was 14 years old, my dizzy spells gradually became worsened by the time I was like 14 years old. And I became debilitated by high school, by constantly being sick, like about every day, and being left unable to walk, and just so dizzy and uncoordinated, and throwing up and stuff like that. So I lived throughout special educational system within the school. I was a transfer student. I was, meaning I lived in one district and I was transferred, took a bus and was transfer student to a school that was in a totally different district because of the educational programs I was in, and whatnot. And I was in special education. So I had learning difficulties and whatever. I needed constant medical attention. I was getting constant medical attention throughout my young life, because I was getting so sick, and it just like worsened and worsened, and I was debilitated pretty much by my illness by the time I was in high school. Still yet to be diagnosed. It wasn't until my 11th grade year, I think, I was finally put on a medication for what was suspected to be episodic ataxia type 2. I was still unconfirmed at the time.
through a genetic test. And I finally got confirmed genetic testing in, I think, 2021, which was like a few years ago or something. I finally was, or was it 22, something like that. But ultimately I was finally genetically confirmed to have it, after all those years. Even still, like after high school, I was still not genetically confirmed to have it, long after I was left high school and had graduated. So yeah. Let's see, what else? So I went from doctor to doctor. I had every test done. You name each test, I had checked every single thing under the sun. It was accidentally stumbled across that I had POTS syndrome, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, in the midst of these things. When we went to the cardiac center of Cleveland Clinic, and I was checked for that on a tilt table test. That was not the ultimate result of this genetic issue that I also have. So I was still having some problems with a vertigo-inducing condition long after that. But at the time, I was seeking so much medical attention and trying to figure out what was wrong that I ended up going to Cleveland Clinic Cardiac Center, and that's when I was diagnosed with my POTS syndrome. But that was an accidental thing that was diagnosed. And also, I was told that all my MRIs prior to my 11th grade year were normal. But I ended up going to Pittsburgh to better doctors in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for my condition. And they actually confirmed my MRI, my brain scan of my brain. The cerebellum in the back of the brain was a little bit atrophied. And the radiologists kept overlooking it. And that wasn't even identified until later on. But that's when it was first suspected I had episodic ataxia type 2. My genetics confirmed, a genetic test was confirmed that I had it only a few years ago. So it's been like a long journey to get in the actual confirmation. And the silly thing is that it does run in my family big time. And every doctor was stupid enough to not even take that into consideration until I ended up going to this doctor in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that started treating my condition to begin with at like 18 years old. By the time I was becoming debilitated by it. So, yeah. So basically, that's my journey to diagnosis with my episodic ataxia type 2. I did a couple other stories. I wanted to add this one in here alone. My journey with episodic ataxia. And how I was diagnosed with that ultimately. So, yeah, I have it hereditary in my family. Within each generation, someone has the ataxia, so I ended up being one of the lucky ones with the condition in my family. So, yeah.